Hi. There's no morning compass today. It's not morning anymore, it's Sunday. I took a day off from the daily briefing, but today I did publish two pieces that I want to tell you about because they deserve more than just another link in the notes on Substack. So let me start with the heavier one, and that is part 10 of The Fall in the Planet. It's the final article in this series, and if you've been following this series, you know what it's about. It's about how authoritarian regimes end. 9 case studies. I looked at Portugal, the Philippines, East Germany in 1989, Czechoslovakia, Romania. I wrote about Chile, South Korea, and twice about Ukraine. And each one is a different combination of triggers, a different turning point, and especially a different morning after feeling. Part 10 pulls it all together. Where does America stand against each of those 5 triggers that political science literature identifies? What do these historical cases teach us, and what can Americans do? Now, this series began because of a conversation I had on a coastal trail in Portugal in March, and there were 3 Americans I was walking with, and they asked me a question. It was not about the trail, they knew it much better than I did, but it was about Trump's America. They asked me, how does this end? Now, 10 parts later, I've given them the best answer that the historical record can provide. It's not a prediction of what will happen, but it's a pattern. And the pattern is this: regimes that have faced the simultaneous activation of economic anxiety, an elite fracture, and sustained mass mobilization, contested military loyalty, and also international isolation, they have not remained unchanged. So the Czechs who filled the streets in November 1989, they did not know that Václav Havel would be their president in just 6 weeks. And the Chileans who voted no in 1988 did not know that the generals would refuse to sign that night. But they showed up anyway. And that is the piece I published in The Planet today. And if you know an American who's asking the same question where this will end, that the same question those hikers asked me on the Portuguese trail, please send this to them. Now, the lighter piece that I published today in The Curious Wanderer, my travel blog, so to say. Some of you have been with me on Patreon. For years, my travel writing lived there, and it was mostly behind a paywall and just for a small community of very good online friends who wanted to follow me on the road. And I loved that community, and I still do. But when I walked Portugal's Fisherman's Trail in March, I ran into a problem. Patreon's technical limitations made it nearly impossible to publish properly from the trail. And I was walking every day, and I had stories I wanted to tell, and the platform just kept getting in the way. So I created The Curious Wanderer on Substack, and I moved to travel writing there, and now months later, the account is growing in numbers, even though it still runs on the quick half-an-hour setup of that evening in a small, beautiful town with a name that only the Portuguese can properly pronounce. It sounds like Otters, I think, but we didn't know how to pronounce it. There's still no about page or welcoming email or all those other settings that you could spend a full day on. I don't have a full day, but I do have stories to tell of a life of international travel, and I don't want you to wait for the right settings. So this Portugal series ran for many weeks, and I described the Atlantic cliffs and the fishing villages and those magnificent white storks with their nests high on the cliffs. And I wrote about the history of a coastline that sent ships to every corner of the world. My walk started actually in the town where Vasco da Gama was born. And I loved writing those pieces, and now I've moved to a new series where I take you to the Netherlands. A walking route through the old Hanseatic cities along the river, the IJssel River. And today's piece is about a town called Doesburg. It's a very small city in the eastern part of the Netherlands that most people have never heard of. It has a café that holds a Guinness record as the oldest continuously operating café in the country. It has been serving beer since 1478, and of course I had to taste it while I was there. And it has fortifications designed by the great Dutch military engineer Coehoorn, built around 1700. And these are perfectly preserved, and they're now a nature reserve. And there are otters in the moats and cuckoos on the ramparts. It also has a shopfront from 1904 in Art Nouveau style for a bicycle manufacturer. So it's decorated with wheels and stylized flowers. And the bicycle was revolutionary in 1904, and the shopfront treated it like a cathedral window. Now, standing in front of that shopfront, I thought about my grandfather, who was born in 1900 in a small village not far from Doesburg. And he told me once that he remembered the very first bicycle arriving in his village. The whole community came out after Sunday church and had to wait in front of the church to watch the village doctor to cycle around on the square on this strange machine. And I remember my grandfather describing how proud the doctor was looking that he had such a new machine. And I love it when a walk connects like that. I love to write about it. And there's also a more personal thread in today's piece. The fortifications in Doesburg, which are magnificent, they were used during the Second World War, not to keep the enemies out, but as a cover by the occupying German force trying to slow down the Canadian advance in April 1945. But the Canadians pushed through, and they continued north and west, and other units from the same army then liberated Amersfoort a couple of weeks later. And my father was hiding in Amersfoort at that time. He was a young man, and he was hiding for the occupying Nazi German army. And the Netherlands walk's not finished. I walked the Doesburg stretch last summer, and I'm now in Deventer, and there's more trail ahead, north along the river, all the way towards Kampen. And I've walked only part of it, and I hope to continue later this year. And when I do, I'll write about it in The Curious Wanderer. And for now, today's piece is there, Doesburg, a city that carries much more history than its 11,000 people might suggest. So there you have the two pieces of today, one about how democracy survived, the serious one, and one about how a walk connects you to people who came before you, which is rather serious in a way as well. Thank you for reading and for watching, for listening, and I hope to see you again tomorrow on Substack.